Hello everybody, it's Jen. Welcome to day 13 of the holiday card series. Today we're making a Christmas tree Northern Lights inspired card with the Honeybee Stamps Stacking Pines die. So I'm just showing you the die set here. And what I love about this is there's 3 different dies that come in the set. The tree with the 3 layers, a tree with 2 layers, and then a little triangle for either the top of the tree or standalone. And there's this really pretty wood grain chunk for the tree. So for today's card, we're just going to be using the single pine and the double layer. Now, I wanted to create a Northern Lights background for this card. I've done this before with watercolors. I haven't done it with Distress Oxide ink, so I wanted to give that a try. I'm using squeezed lemonade, cracked pistachio, peacock feathers, and then I'll bring in chipped sapphire and black soot here in a moment. But to create those bright northern lights, I'm using these 3 colors first. I wanted the brightest yellow and the cracked pistachio to be at the bottom. And you can see I'm just using my brush here. I've sped this up quite a bit because it did take a while to get this all blended in. As I'm getting to the final stages of blending, I'm actually going to pull or push my brush up from the bottom to the top just to get those horizontal lines that I'm looking for, almost like the Northern Lights are dancing in the sky. So here's where I'm bringing in my chipped sapphire and the black soot. I wanted this to look like a night scene, so I'm just using the chipped sapphire around the edges, and I will blend that in a little bit. I only want a very light covering of the black soot just to give that nighttime feel, but the majority of the sky is going to be in the chipped sapphire. So I'm working on my Tim Holtz glass mat, which makes it super easy to do blending, and I really love how this ended up turning out. Now once it dries, the color will come back a little bit and it will look a little bit lighter. I am just bringing in some of a lighter blue here, and you can see I am transferring some ink onto my ink pads, but that will easily wipe up with a paper towel. So here's where I'm going to come back in with the cracked pistachio and the squeezed lemonade, and I'm just going to continue to bring some of that color up into the sky. And the trees will cover a lot of this, so it can have imperfections in it, and the Northern Lights aren't perfectly shaped anyways, so it looks really pretty regardless of how it turns out. And you can see I did bring up some of those colors into the sky a little bit more to give almost like a halo effect to the lights. I did spray some water onto my card panel here and dab that up with a paper towel. I thought that would give the impression of a starry sky. I'm bringing in some white gouache, added some water, and I'm just going to dab that with my finger and get some paint splatters onto the background as well. Just another added effect for the nighttime scene. Once I get my card panel done, I will set that aside to dry for a while. The gouache takes a little bit to dry, and I didn't want to have it smudge on my card panel. I went ahead and cut out a snowbank here using the Heffy Doodle Slopey Joe dies, and then I'm going to arrange my trees. Now I cut my trees out in a number of different greens. I wasn't quite sure which color I wanted to go with. I knew I wanted to use multiple green colors for the trees just for some added interest, but like I said, wasn't quite sure which ones I was going to choose. In the end, I choose a darker green, kind of a mid-tone green, and then a pale green. And I really love how the different colors of cardstock add to the prettiness of the card. So this is a fairly simple card to create. I love using die cuts for the holidays. Makes it easy when you have a bunch of Christmas cards to make. All the effort is really in the background, and it just sets the scene for these magical holiday trees in the wilderness. So you can see here I do play around with placement a little bit and finally decide on where I want my trees to go, and then I'm going to adhere those down just with some liquid glue. I'm not going to pop these up this time, The different layers of trees add its own dimension, so I didn't feel like I needed to add any foam tape, but you definitely could if you love that raised effect. So here's my placement. Now I'm going to move them off. I'm going to take away the other ones so I don't get them mixed up, and then I can go ahead and start adhering everything to my card panel. I would love to know if you are still making holiday cards or if you're done with them and have them in the mail. I'm getting ready to wind down with the holiday cards and move on to creating some other cards at this point. I've been making holiday cards now since the end of October and really happy with the cards that I was able to make this year. I know some people make holiday cards all year long, which I think is great if you want to prep and have a whole bunch ready. But I find once I do a number of them, I'm ready to kind of put the Christmas stuff away and focus on some other projects. So basically here I'm just laying down these trees, and you'll see that they do change a little bit in placement, but not too much. For the sentiment, I'm going to be bringing in the Lawn Fawn Ho Ho Holidays, and I'm going to use the sentiment that reads, "May your holidays be filled with magic." You'll see here in a bit, I just go ahead and stamp that on some white cardstock. And I do decide to stamp that out with the Chips Sapphire ink. I thought that that would tie in the card really nicely instead of using some black ink, and it just plays up on that nighttime sky. Just had to use my adhesive eraser here. I did get a little bit of glue on some of that. And before I move on to the sentiment, I'm going to add some snow. So this is Aileen's glitter snow, it's called, and it's super pretty. So I'm just using a paintbrush and I'm dabbing that into the lid of the snow container. I'm going to add this to the top of the trees. There is some pretty details on the trees. They emboss where the various levels of the trees meet. So I'm using that as a guide, and I'm going to add the snow to those sections as well for the trees with the 2 layers. For the trees that are just the smaller ones, the single layers, I'm just going to add the snow to the tops. And once I got this done, it was super pretty and glittery, but I felt like I wanted more glitter. So I am going to bring in my Lawn Fawn chunky glitter, and I'm going to just add that on top of the glitter snow. So it's super glittery. I wanted there to be lots of pizzazz with the glitter on this card, just because it is a fairly simple design with the cardstock cutouts, but I wanted to play up that northern light sky, and you'll see I do add a few other embellishments to make that even more shiny and sparkly. So I love the shine that that gives. I will just take a paintbrush and brush away the bits of glitter that stayed on the card panel itself. So that's what I'm doing here. Super easy to get off the back panel. My Distress Oxide ink was quite dry at this time, so you do want to make sure your images and your panels are dry before you add any glitter. So here's where I'm going to do my sentiment like I talked about, and the sentiment here is in 2 pieces, so may your holidays be, and then I'm using the filled with magic. I thought that would be pretty for this card, given, in my opinion, the Northern Lights are quite magical. They are definitely on my bucket list of things that I would love to see. The only thing is I don't like cold weather, so I'm not too keen on traveling up north in the winter to see them, but I suspect they would just be absolutely mesmerizing. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this one side on an angle, and then I'm going to adhere this to the top right-hand side of my card. Again, just using liquid adhesive for this, no dimension at all, and I'll glue that right down and then trim off the portion that's overhanging with my scissors. Again, just had a little bit of glue on my fingers, so using my adhesive eraser there to get that cleaned up. Here's where I decided to add a little more sparkle. I'm using the Trinity Stamps Andromeda Nebula Star Confetti Mix. These are teeny tiny stars, but they're iridescent and they're absolutely beautiful in the light. So I'm going to add this around the background and a few onto the sentiment as well, just to draw your attention to the sentiment. And that will pretty much complete this card. Super simple, but so pretty. So I'm going to shine the light here once Lila gets out of the way. She was determined to come and see what I was doing in the craft room. But when I move this back and forth in the light, you can see how it just glitters and sparkles, and I love how it turned out. So thanks everyone for joining me. I hope you're having a fabulous start to the holiday season. Please consider subscribing if you haven't yet so you don't miss any videos. Here's another holiday video for you to watch, and as always, I will see you really soon in the next video. Bye everybody!